I was a hater when I first saw that Shazam 2 trailer, but honestly, I'm not gonna lie, this movie was pretty fun. I'm kind of shocked by how much I like this movie because the first Shazam didn't work for me as well as it did for a lot of people. I think the moments of heart and where Shazam just got to be Shazam and try out his new powers were great, but everything around that just kind of fell flat for me or pretty cringy. Now, in this second one, with the whole family kind of being the centerpiece of this movie, I think they really nail the whole family dynamic. I always get afraid when you have to juggle a bunch of superheroes and characters in the same thing, but the family dynamic and the little time skip that they have to show that, they've been doing this for a little while but are still unexperienced really works. Each member of the family kind of still retains their personality, and while the issue still remains that Billy isn't very close to Shazam in personality, I feel like the other characters are, and you can kind of see that these are the same characters in their adult forms as they are in their kid forms. Due to that reason, I think that you see Billy a little less in this movie. Like, he's really only in a couple scenes. It's mostly just him as Shazam versus kind of the other way around in the original movie. But the heart in this movie is really there, and that's what really has to sell these movies. The characters all have an arc that they're going on, and the big central point of this movie is growing up and the difficulties of that, the things you get afraid of, and accepting that changes are going to happen. Not the most original theme, but it's done pretty well and heartfelt here, and it's something that's nice to see in a comic book movie that is focused on a younger hero. Now, a lot of the movie is just like a blast to watch, right? I think the pacing is really well done here. The story, while it's pretty average, still is done serviceable enough, and the new villains that they introduced with Lucy Liu and a few other actresses are honestly pretty decent, right? They are very corny and campy, but they kind of sell that role in a way that makes it at least intimidating enough, maybe not from a visual perspective, but from an actual performance perspective. And would it have been nicer to see like a Black Adam or someone else as like an actual villain? Maybe, but for the story that they're serving, right, as antagonists with not the deepest of goals or anything, they do a serviceable job and help set up some really cool action set pieces. And that's the thing. From a creative standpoint, the movie does a really good job of showing the different powers of Shazam with the super speed and the flight and electricity, and it sets up some really cool action scenes for one final action set piece, which you can kind of guess from the trailers, which is really dope. And the CGI here actually just looks really solid. I think in a lot of Marvel movies and stuff like that nowadays with all these crazy budgets, everything looks fake, but I think the CGI here was pretty good, kind of in the same way that Black Adam's CGI was surprisingly decent in a lot of scenes, despite that movie being pretty horrendous. In addition, the monster designs are really cool with a lot of mythological creatures here, where in the first Shazam, they are all just kind of gray blobs, but here they all feel very distinct and unique. Pretty importantly, the humor lands here. The trailers didn't sell the humor very well and made it seem very cringy and try-hard. And while some of Shazam, specifically Shazam's jokes, don't really land, the Wizard is weirdly really funny. Freddy is really funny as well, and he also has probably the second biggest character arc in this movie, with some of it being a little forced, but honestly I found his arc more interesting than Billy's. And yeah, that's the thing, I don't know if there's that much specifically I can say to this, because it's not setting up a new layer in the genre. We know this unfortunately is probably not going to continue as a franchise with the new reorg of the DCU, and yeah, the story is fine, the villains are fine, but it's just flows really well together as a cohesive movie. It has a lot of heart to it, and maybe that's just with a lot of mediocre-ish comic book movies nowadays. It's fun to see one that is lighthearted and fun, and kind of a lot what people were saying about the first Shazam, but for some reason this one hit more for me, despite that this one is getting pretty bad reviews, and unfortunately I think this one is not going to do very well with the bad reviews, the low ticket sales, and even just anecdotally from my own showing, I was there opening night Dolby, and there was barely anyone there, which is not something I've seen for even movies who haven't done super well. I don't know, I enjoyed it way more than I expected, which I'm shocked to say. I was getting ready to frame this whole video as hey, is this one of the worst movies in the DCU? And it sucks to say that because I don't want to be overly negative, but I just had no faith in this. But honestly, if you had even a little bit of interest in this, and especially if you like the first one, go into this open-minded. There's a lot of fun to be had. There's a lot of cool moments, but mostly it's just the characters are really well done and they're entertaining to watch, and you love seeing the whole family dynamic, and you just see the Shazam family on screen together done well, which is something we might not get again for a long time. So yeah, honestly, probably a 7 out of 10. Maybe a little overrated there, but hey, I think that's a solid number for right now, and it is definitely better than at least Ant-Man Quantumania. So there we go.